men will be the downfall. And if there's a downfall of our country or society, it'll be because of men. Men who are embracing, so sad to say it, the OnlyFans movement. It's men who are all up on that virtual reality sexual encounters. It's men buying the almost lifelike sex dolls. And it's just a matter of time when the AI, the virtual reality, and the sex dolls all click together. And now men will feel like, say, I'm gonna be the woman. So now what? Now this becomes an episode of Black Mirror where you're just going to be what, in your little hovel, making enough money to sustain life, to rub your genitals against a fake rubber doll that's AI generated. What the fuck have we come to?
Welcome, warriors. And you know what? Everyone talks about their dreams, right? They talk about having the American dream, wanting the cars, wanting the toys, the wife, being a good father, being a good husband, living a purposeful life, right? And enjoying this one shot we have. But no one talks about the cost it takes to get there. We talk all the time about building these businesses and the blueprint, but we don't talk about the sacrifice and how hard it really is. The man sitting next to me today, he knows a lot about sacrifice. He knows a lot about the hard knocks of life to get to where you want to go. Bedros, welcome to the Battle Harder podcast.
Appreciate the opportunity, Rob, and thanks for coming all the way out here from Florida to do this.
Look, I've learned very recently that when someone like yourself gives someone like me an opportunity, you take it. And no matter what, you find a way to get there. And that's kind of the message of what we're talking about today. With you building your businesses, your brands, this global movement that you're creating, what was the biggest sacrifice, or what has been the biggest sacrifice to this date to get to this level?
Well, there's a level of growth that anyone can get to of financial freedom that doesn't require sacrifice of reputation, sacrifice of peace of mind. There's plenty of people out there who don't have any social media following. They don't have any social footprint, and they're financially very stout, right? However, you said something about the magical word, which is global movement. So I'm a big believer in money and meaning. My podcast is all about Bedros Keuilian shows money, meaning, and self-mastery. And so as I created wealth for myself through, been very blessed to partner with some great people to create all these companies. And I realized early on, probably 2016, 2017, that there was an attack on masculinity. And that masculinity was being stifled intentionally because the only thing stopping big government position from stepping on our throats are able-bodied men like you and me, right? Government's not worried about the elderly. They're not worried about young kids. They're not worried about the women stopping them. It's us, able-bodied men. And so if they can systematically dismantle men, their pride in our DNA, if they can dismantle that, they can then continue to encroach on our freedoms little by little. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. There's no one big cut that the opposition can give. So when I noticed that, I decided I'm going to start vocally speaking out against it on the social media platforms. At the time, my social media platform was mainly to promote my businesses, and I would do speaking events. And so you talk about what is a sacrifice that I've had to endure. 2016, it was that. 2018, my book came out called Man Up. And by the way, all man up is human up. It's human up, right? And in the Bible, literally talks about mankind as men and women. However, 2018, the Man Up movement also was firing off. And look, people like Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein, who are absolute dirtbags and were absolute womanizers and did bad things to women. However, as this movement continued to grow, men began to get more marginalized. And I realized that my publisher calls me and says, 2018, my book comes out. 2018, the anti-man movement was second gear. And I realized, as my publisher was telling me, he's like, dude, you've sold enough books to hit the New York Times bestseller list. And he jokingly laughs and he goes, but you're in good company with Howard Stern, because his book back in the 90s, Private Parts.
Right.
They never acknowledged him. The New York Times. He goes, "You've sold enough books to hit the top 10 bestsellers." He goes, "But you're not getting the nod." I said, "How come?" He said, "Because of your title." Literally judging a book by its cover. This book is read by men and women, all about how to thrive in life and overcome the bullshit that we tell ourselves, those stories. And those stories come from many places, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to create a podcast. And the podcast is going to be the Bedros Keuilian Show. And I'm going to launch this podcast. And I'm glad I did, because as I did that, we're now entering 2020 at that point, the pandemic, and we see an even greater attack on masculinity. And look, there's nothing wrong with the Me Too movement, sister. Like, I'm pro women. I'm about as pro women as one can get. However, when the government starts using media, television, social media, radio, publications to begin to constantly oppress men in a way that makes you feel like if you were to use your voice to stand up against anything that they're doing, that you are now toxic and somehow encroaching on the rights of others. That's not a healthy thing. When I come from a communist country, let's not forget that I escaped communism. And so I got my dad in my ear telling me this is right out of the Communist Manifesto. So when they dismantle men, they begin to take more control of the population. And so I launched my show, the Bedros Keuilian Show. And, look, financially, I was doing freaking awesome with the body boot camps and supplements. And thankfully, that blew up. 2021, I just sit there silent with my money and see this encroachment on men. And so I decided I'm going to keep talking about how we are going to empower men, free men, emotionally, psychologically, financially, spiritually, and into their rightful place as leaders, because that's exactly who we are. Because everyone is all for equality until there's a loud bang outside. Then all of a sudden they're looking for the men in the room to go and solve the problem. And so as I started my show on the heels of my book, and of course the pandemic, I got so much hate, from death threats to getting canceled. My YouTube channel for a while was canceled, and all for no reason, by the way. To getting threats to the point where we know where your children go to school. And why would you say that to someone unless you had some malicious intent, right? And so the suffering really comes from that. Now, no amount of suffering is going to get me to shut my mouth and talk about, what's going to happen. In fact, many Fit Body Bootcamp clients who didn't agree with my ideology, my belief system, ended up leaving Fit Body Bootcamp gyms. And of course, you can imagine those gym owners who are franchisees were pretty upset. But I knew that I have my rights and my freedom, and I come from a communist country, and damn it if I don't speak what's on my mind. It only took about a year and a half before the tides turned, and all of a sudden I went from being a villain in the eyes of the left and those that were trying to threaten me, to all of a sudden, I think people started to feel the pressure of the opposition, and that's when all of a sudden my voice became bigger. My videos started to go viral. My podcast was hitting the top 5, top 10 on Spotify and iTunes. And I shared this with you because, look, man, you can have money and live peacefully with your family and your community, and that's that. But when I go, I'm leaving behind 2 beautiful kids, Andrew and Chloe. Andrew's currently 20 years old. So when I started the podcast, they were what, 16 and 14, young teenagers. How could I leave a country in worse condition to them and expect them to live a quality life like I did? I can't. I have to fight for them, and I have to teach them to fight for the country, for the next generation, I'm Armenian in descent, but I'm American from the United States. Is who I am. It's who I identify as. And so, no amount of suffering, man, in terms of threats, both financial and canceling, the book not hitting the New York Times bestseller list, even though it hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. And when you look at the Wall Street Journal, New York Times bestseller list, they use the same numbers. So how do we hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, but not the New York Times bestseller list? And that's okay, man. That's all right, because it's literally judging the book by its cover. The suffering was worth it. Now, in the growth of business, is there suffering as well? Yes, that's different suffering. That's suffering like, you're risking your family's money. You're maxing out credit cards. You're refinancing your home. You're giving up weekends, right, to hang out with friends and do what normal people do, because you've got this crazy vision in your mind's eye that you're going to go and conquer the world and bring something new and different to the market. So that's a level of suffering there as well. But the greatest suffering to your to your question, is the suffering and reputation. And it's because, you look at so many decades later, we see the CIA was using the channels as a voice to echo a message to us, the population. Today, they use social media influencers to do that. There's evidence of that now. There's a Joe Rogan episode that even showed proof of that. And so to see big social media influencers making hate videos about me, and my son and daughter being teens and on social media seeing that, want to talk about suffering when they go, "Hey, Dad, is this true?" I'm like, no, they're taking that out of context, son. Daughter, they're taking that out of context. No. And look, during the project, Ray, speaking of Ray Cash Care, myself, Ray, and a couple other guys, for 5 years, 20 classes, we ran this event called The Project at Class 5. A gentleman died at the project. He died because he had an enlarged heart, but it was in 2020. And so, of course, the local coroner's office was not able to give us a coroner's report in 30 days like they're supposed to. 6 months. And during those 6 months, when word got out, all we kept seeing on YouTube is these guys killed someone at their event that's designed to help men break free from their suffering, right? Until the coroner's report 6 months later finally came out, because, as you know, during the pandemic, everything was slower in terms of delivery. And so we finally got vindicated. But, to have your son and daughter ask, "Did you really kill someone, Dad?" No, we didn't. But that vindication came months later. So, and if you love this country, if you love the freedom that we have, and you think that someone else will protect it, and it's not your duty, I'm here to tell you that it is. That's exactly what you're doing, Rob, and that's exactly what I chose to do. Looking on your family, and you have to endure it.
Going deeper in that, guys like you that escaped the communist country and grew up with nothing, and you had to find a mentor and find your way, and guys like me who was in the military and was a police officer and had all the mental health, and I say had because I don't feel like I have PTSD, depression, anxiety anymore. Why do we have the wherewithal or the ability to believe in ourselves to fight and try to do good in this, world where everybody else right now is just on autopilot and sick and everything that's going on, especially with what we know now with the Epstein files and the poison in our food. There was a study, thank God for Ron DeSantis, who's trying to put harder things in order in Florida. We just found massive amount of pesticides in our bread. We found arsenic in our candy that our kids are consuming, and nobody's being held to the fire. So how do we continue this movement where the truth is there, the answers are there, but it doesn't seem like men are raising their hands and saying, "Hey, it's time for me to step up"?
Dude, you hit such a big nail on the head there. I think more men feel called. I think I can speak for you and say that you felt called to go into the military and serve our country. You felt called to become a police officer and serve your community, right? And now you feel called to do what you're doing. It's a calling. More men feel called. And man, I hate saying this, and I'm not going to mention any names, but look, in this life, I've been very blessed living in California. A very famous male actor, how old are you?
Be 49 and
49, I'm 51. He's a couple years younger than you, so 47. Good looking, handsome dude, dear friend of mine. Whenever I would put up an anti-pandemic, anti-vouching, anti-government post on social media, he would send me a text message with a screenshot of my post. It was, "B, good for you. Keep speaking your truth. Keep saying that. More people need to say that." And let's just say his name is.
but he wouldn't engage. I guess he believed in what you were saying, but he wouldn't put his voice out there.
And I let's just call him Mike. And I would say, "Mike, why don't you even heart it? Why don't you share it?" He goes, "I can't. Not in the industry that I'm in. I'm in the film industry." He goes, "You don't know how many other people want to echo your voice, but can't." And I think that's, if there's going to be a downfall to our country, it'll be men who feel that I want to say something, but I can't. And then you fill in the blank because of my job. And we saw this happen with actually police officers who were like, I know this is not constitutional, and I know I shouldn't be enforcing this, but I'm a cop. And like, dude, I've got a friend in Brea, California, 10 minutes from here. You're familiar with the area, 15 minutes from here. 4 months before the pandemic, he opened up a restaurant in Brea. His name is Tony. The restaurant is called Old Brea Chop House. He didn't know a pandemic was coming. He put it all in, and he was the guy that worked for Mastro's Steakhouse, opening up restaurants for 20 years for Mastro's. And some customers were like, hey, Tony, we want to bet on you. We want to invest in you if you put some money in as well. He spends $4.5 million, opens up this restaurant, right? 4 months later, the pandemic hits. He didn't, like, he put his life savings in. And he's not a spring chicken. He's our age, right? And so I share this with you because God bless him. He would open the back door because so it's Old Ranch Chop House. Next to it is the Improv. They share a back door where maybe they can take out garbage and stuff, right? And so he would like text me and other customers that he knew well, he'd park in the back and then come into the back, through the kitchen. Bro, this is not 1940s. We're railroad. Yeah, we're trying to get a shot. You know, I'm trying to eat a steak, right? And I eventually talked to a cop who was staked out front, right? And he goes, I know you guys are coming in through the back, but I'm here just doing my job, just doing my job. And because of that, this man's going to go out of business. He goes, but if I don't just do my job, I'll end up losing my job. Well, I've got a great friend, Greg Anderson. You probably know Greg Anderson or know of him at least. Good dude, former Army Ranger, cop, dear friend of mine. I just wrote the foreword for his book. Look, he stood his ground as a cop, and they fired him. And he said, I'm not going to enforce these laws of having small businesses shut down. I'm not going to take the jab. And I think more men need to, if they feel called, more men feel called. Only a select few are willing to stand up. And if this country ends up going down, which I'm a forever optimist, I don't think it will, it'll be because of those weak men who quietly support us, but don't use their voice and their access like they should.
Yeah, and to bring a valid point, so I opened Strength Camp Coconut Creek in 2018. Those guys at the time were working with you with the body.
Yeah, Elliot House.
I was shut down for 3 months, and I wish I would have followed Ian Smith's, version of I'm going to open no matter what.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was scared, and looking back, thank God that that led me to this and this higher power of wanting to make men strong again and help people live purposeful lives. I've never understood, and I don't know if you feel the same way, why people waste so much time doing nothing with their life and not trying to have a service mindset. And you're right when you said you could speak for me. The whole reason why I became a police officer was to protect those that couldn't protect themselves.
Yeah.
Having that service mindset, trying to instill in others. I also have kids, and I just want to see a society where men are protecting, providing, presiding over their families. They're leading with love. They have faith in God. And that's a very powerful thing to put into the world that isn't going to get sidelined no matter how much you speak up.
Yep. Look, at the end of the day, men could use whatever excuse they want. But I've come to this conclusion, like actually in the last 6 months, I've solidified it in my brain that men will be the downfall. And that if there is a downfall of our country or society, it'll be because of men. It's men that are creating AI. It's men who are embracing, so sad to say it, the OnlyFans movement, right? It's men who are all up on that virtual reality sexual encounters. It's men buying the almost lifelike sex dolls.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of time when the AI, the virtual reality, and the sex dolls all click together. And now men will feel like, say, I'm going to be the woman. So now what? Now we're not procreating. Now this becomes an episode of Black Mirror where you're just going to be what in your little hovel making enough money to sustain life, to rub your genitals against a fake rubber doll that's AI generated. Like, what the fuck have we come to, right? We're becoming the downfall of ourselves because we're not taking control of our impulses and of our animalistic urges. All people, men and women, we are human animals. And I've said this over and over again, and it's something that I've learned and echoed from Joseph Campbell, his book, The Power of Myth. We have to rise to become human beings because we are the only form of bone and skin and muscle that also has self-awareness to know that I am different. I am separate from this vehicle that I'm in. For example, when you go to step into your car and drive off, you don't become your car, right? You are the operator of the car. Our consciousness is the operator of this machine. We're self-aware enough to know that. The human animal is impulsive, is greedy, is violent, is selfish, and it's all these characteristics that are going to drive us into an early societal downfall if we don't manage them and rise to our higher self, being human beings. Not everyone is a human being. I think maybe 2% of society are actual human beings. Energy of self-awareness, can have outside eyes on themselves, that can witness who they are when they operate. And do I want to react to what Rob just said? Or am I going to take a moment and respond like a gentleman? That's the difference between a human animal who reacts and a this erosion to happen. I hope that we reach a place where the tides are turning. I feel they are, or they were. To say this on your podcast, that I think a lot of us who voted for Trump, myself included, felt that some kind of righteous attempt to bring justice for those children who were, let's call it what it is, trafficked and raped on Epstein Island and his ranch in Albuquerque. And he promised that he would release those files. And all we see is redacted bullshit. And I think men are seeing this stuff and going, see, that the one dude that we had hoping, who he thought could do something, and now he's not. He's going back on his word. And when you begin to lose hope as a man or a woman, you stop trying.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell men, do not lose hope. Speak your mind. Use your voice. If you have 100 followers or 100 million followers, share your thoughts. Because if you don't, there won't be a next generation to enjoy this freedom.
You know, I love that you said. I always love when you say on your podcast every time the human animal, because it's just such a great analogy. You know, if me being, I was very, very bad with my PTSD, with my depression, with my anxiety, but not because of the disease, so to speak, because my mindset, because I allowed it to, I was the guy, oh, I have depression. So if I have depression, that's the way it is. And even as a man who believes in faith, fitness, family, finances, and very prevalent in the fitness industry, I still was letting the emotions control me. It wasn't until recently that I'm like, well, if I say I have depression, well, what if I say I don't have depression? If I say that I'm worthless, what if I say that I'm worthy? Why are we just numbing ourselves with everything that's going on in society? Like you said, the pornography, the booze, the alcohol, the not trying to be better, not trying to grow, and going into this funk of everybody has some form of mental health issue.
Yeah. We have to take it back to caveman days. Imagine this, bro. Imagine this. You and I are cavemen. You, me, and Ed here. We're cavemen, and we're like in the same tribe, right? We know that there's like this opposing tribe on the other side of the mountain. But guess what? They got their own problems to deal with. We got our own problems to deal with. There's a river going by, but between us and the river, there's a saber-toothed tiger, and there's dinosaurs, and there's all types of shit trying to eat us. And between us and that river, there's all types of trees that have fruit on them. And I'm like, shoot, I'm hungry. You hungry? Yeah. Hey, did you? Yeah, we're all hungry. We're all thirsty, and we got our cave ladies in the cave waiting for us to drag home a brontosaurus or a saber-toothed tiger. Now, at some point, you're like, hey, B, watch my back with your spear while I carry my hollowed out tree trunk to the river,
To get some water.
fill it up with water and bring it to my family. And then I'll do the same for you. I'm like, roger that. And then at some point, we're like, hey, what if we took all these logs and hollowed them out and lined it up from the river, slope towards our caves. And now we've got some kind of a reservoir, right? So it is human instinct to come up with things that are more convenient. Convenience, right? And safer, because now we don't try and fight a saber-toothed tiger with spears while my homeboy is trying to get some water or fruit or whatever, and vice versa. And so I think through this desire of constant comfort and convenience, and then we go, hey, look, we found fire. I'm like, holy shit, homeboy found fire. This is fantastic. Ed, look, you don't have to be wet. Come huddle around the fire. And then we go, well, okay, we don't have to spark this every time. We can actually have this thing called a furnace. If we can just find a way to pipe gas. And so we created comfort, we created convenience, all the way to the point of quality of life was good. I would say maybe somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then humans, of course, always want more convenience and comfort. It's factory installed in us. It's our reptilian mind wants that. So it's like, you know what? I'm hungry and I want a burrito. instead of going to Primo's fucking taco stand down the road, someone created this app that I can order, pay a little bit more, customize it, and I could watch my burrito coming down the road.
Almost right into my mouth.
Talk about comfort and convenience.
Yeah.
And I think it's at the point of social media and these smartphones meeting together is where comfort and convenience began to take us down, because now they understand how slot machines work. Variable response, right? Put money in the slot machine, you lose it, you lose. You put money in the slot machine, pull the handle, you lose it. You put another $5 in the slot machine, pull the handle. Oh my God, I just won $10. Positive reinforcement. Well, you lost 15, but you won 10. Now gives you more hope. Variable response. You don't know what the next pull is going to be. That is exactly what this swipe is. And so social media and technology creating life too comforting and too convenient has been the downfall of humanity again. Because now you can have your vape with your desired amount of nicotine and weed show up to you. You can. You could mail order anything. You could do it off your app. You don't even have to call a taxi the night before if you're traveling. You just call it Uber on the spot, right? And to some degree, I applaud the technological advances that we've created. But now it's on us to constantly instill hardship on us so that we can stay mentally, physically, emotionally sharp, because humanity wants to dull us because of the comfort and convenience. I think men have just been like, well, I'm going to watch the next short. I'm going to watch the next reel. I'm going to watch the next TikTok, because of the variable response, the micro dopamine hits. Okay. Before you know it, 3.5 hours are gone. That's what the average American male watches in social media per day, 3.5 hours. Bro, you give me another 3.5 hours, I'll start another franchise that hits $200 million in the next 5 years. And I share this with you because this reptilian, caveman-ish desire to create safety, comfort, and convenience has gone so long and so far that we have become what I used to think was funny when I watched the movie Wall-E. You ever watch Wall-E?
Yeah.
For kids?
Oh yeah, it's real life.
Right?
Life imitating art, right?
That's it. That's it. Those cruise ships that were floating around in outer space with the fat, bloated people who are just sitting on a cruise ship and just eating and watching
Yep.
the screens. That is humanity. That is humanity. And so it is on us to make sure that this level of comfort and convenience doesn't kill us, because now that we get the average lifespan is shorter, kids now have diabetes. What the fuck are we talking about? Kids having diabetes. Like when I was a kid, if I was going to die, it was going to be because of a broken neck, because me and my friends were playing snake in the grass, or we tackle each other down and dogpile each
Or they used to say, smear the queer.
or smear the queer. Now you say smear the queer, you get cancer, right?
Yeah.
But let me tell you, we played smear the queer until the sun went down. And once the sun went down, it was ding dong ditching, right? You remember that because you want to knock on the door and run and have fucking Mr. Smith chase you down the street, and you're flipping them off until you end up, your mom drags you back to his house or whatever. Those days are gone, bro. Those days are gone of like actually manufactured adversity. And so if we don't do that, we end up becoming these gelatinous fucks whose brains are turned to mush, and we begin to believe what every talking head on these social media pages say. And then soon we just nod along with that and have this tiny little sliver of flame inside, but the raging inferno of desire is gone.
And I really like what you said, especially with like the weed and nicotine and stuff. And guys, I tell you all the time about the whole, you have to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. That is the only way to have growth. I don't understand how people don't realize that anything worth having in life, it's a struggle. It's not, because at the end of the day, if you say, hey, here's, $1 million, go do what you want with it, I'm going to blow.
Yeah.
Right. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to blow it. I'm going to use it for needless things. But if I earn that $1 million, I'm going to put that back into my business or into my marriage or into my kids. I'm going to build generational wealth with that because I had to earn it. And, it's funny you talk about the vaping stuff. I was smoking marijuana to sleep. I once again telling my brain, oh, this is the only way I can go to sleep. It wasn't until I said, you know what? Either I'm going to die because I'm not going to sleep, or I'm going to tell myself, look, it's going to be okay. You can sleep. You don't need the drugs. Guess what? I'm okay. I sleep without drugs.
And guess what? Maybe some nights you don't sleep so well.
Well,
Who cares?
yeah, exactly.
Who cares? That's fine. Right. And that's exactly what it is, man. You made a conscious decision that I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be worthless. I'm going to be worthy. I'm not going to use marijuana to numb myself and fall asleep because at some point it's going to lead to something different or larger quantities of it. And so I'm just going to push through and do something else. I'm going to fatigue myself physically and mentally. And let me tell you, the greatest sleeping agent that I've ever taken, physical work. If you show me a tired man who can't sleep at that, a physically tired man, that motherfucker will sleep like the dead. Man, you make such a good point there. And so what do we do as humanity, right? And because this is something I get asked, like, well, so is there any hope left? Like, yeah, there is hope. And I'm going to steal this from Greg Anderson. So we have to give credit to Greg Anderson. And he's the one who I heard say this. We have to microdose adversity. Like, for example, right now, I'm on hour number 22 of the 48-hour fast. One of my, and by the way, I kind of started my actually more like hour number 30 because I started the fast a few hours early. The truly 48-hour fast started nationwide at 6 p.m. local time yesterday. I started like 3-4 hours early just because I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do something harder. Right now, I knew that I had this interview and I knew that I'm probably going to be a little depleted. My brain isn't going to be firing. And I'm like, guess what? I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I'm going to show up and deliver the best content that I can.
Yep.
It's probably going to be better than what I delivered before because I'm going to ask consciousness to speak through me. I'm going to ask source to speak through me. And so, like, this is microdosing adversity for me. Now, someone may not need to start with the 48-hour fast. Maybe what they just need to do is actually go to the gym like you say you're going to go. That's a microdose of adversity to be able to push yourself, sweat, feel the lactic acid build up, and be sore the next day. And then you want to microdose a little bit more adversity. I'm not saying don't eat. I'm saying just don't eat the fucking shitty food that you're trying to put in your pie hole and actually figure out what a chat GPT, figure out what your macros are for the day, for desired fats, protein, and carbs for the day, to be a lean jack motherfucker. And just for one day, microdose adversity by eating your macros, right? And before you know it, one day becomes two, two becomes three, and before you know it, you're like stacking days of
wins.
Yeah. Like all day today, I've been working after this with one of my companies, FitPro Tracker. I've got a whole leadership meeting via Zoom for 90 minutes. I got to think, I got to make decisions, I got to fire off questions. Bro, it doesn't faze me. Now, 15 years ago, oh shit, I can fast for 6 hours, let alone 6 days or whatever, right? And so when we microdose adversity and we do it over time, and it compounds, stacking wins, before you know it, you become a formidable motherfucker. What's missing in humanity?
And I think it's breaking the barriers against society. If you can just go against the grain on everything that we've been taught, you're going to be a formidable person. I mean, I tell people all the time, I intermittent fast. Okay. So I've been fasting for years. I used to be 300 pounds at my heaviest when I got out of the military and was depressed and everything. And I was the guy, go to the gym, lifts heavy weights, but like you said, just cramming everything in my pie hole, didn't have any discipline with food whatsoever, was an emotional eater. And intermittent fasting was something that helped me. And it's funny because I'm a morning gym person, even here. I've gone to Crunch Fitness. I've been going to Crunch Fitness down the street from my aunt's house every day since I've been here because I'm not going to sacrifice my workout because I'm here. And you don't eat before you work out? No. You don't take your protein as soon as you work out? No. And you're not like losing muscle and you're not, no, because everything that they're telling us is a lie. Everything they're telling us is wrong. Like you have to do what you have to do for your body and what works for you and what's going to make you the most optimal human, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that's where it starts, man. Just micro dosing adversity. And whether it's intermittent fasting, whether it's getting a morning workout in, whether it's just you decide to journal, read 3 or 4 pages out of a book. Like it's sad that even 3 or 4 pages of reading something that you should do to actually enhance your knowledge and your understanding of the world is now considered adversity. People go, well, I read a page and then I go right to my phone. Like, are you fucking retarded? Like you're a grown ass man. You should be embarrassed to tell me that. What do you mean you read a page and then you lose focus and you go to your phones? Like I should not have to hear that. And so for me, and I'm a little extreme, but I would pass this message along to your audience. I would say, I got this method called the gun to the head method. Now, I would never recommend anyone put a gun to their head. I want to go on record and say that.
Yeah, I do that, guys.
If you just metaphorically imagine, because I always tell these guys, like, hey, Bedros, I try reading, but I read a page and then I get pulled in by my phone, or I try working out and 3 days later, I go back to my old habits of sleeping in. I go, let me ask you something. If there was a gun to your head, if I had a gun to your head, a loaded gun, a 357 revolver, and I'm like, mother, and I even got the hammer pulled back, which means that fucking trigger is super light. If you don't stick to the program, I'm going to shoot you. Do you think you can go more than 3 days working out? Hell yeah, I can. Do you think you can read the whole book in one sitting? Hell yeah, I can. Why? Well, because you've got a gun to my head. Then operate like there's a gun to your head, because there is. If you've got kids, they're watching. And you are now creating lazy little fucks for the future who are going to be fat and diabetic. If you've got a wife, a spouse who is counting on you and believes in you, you think she wants to have sex with your stretch mark belly, gelatinous titty body? She doesn't. She doesn't. You think you have staying power? You don't. You're like a fucking walrus who just throws your fucking body on her, right? And I share this with them, with your audience, bro, and I share this with my audience because, like, as men, we have a duty and an obligation, man. And if we don't do these things, like there was a gun to our head, metaphorically speaking, of course, one day, realistically, there will be when you die of an early death and you realize, man, 2 decades too early, my kids were gathered around a hospital bed saying goodbye to me. I've left them with debt, with bad habits, with emotional trauma, with no financial well-being, all because I chose to live like a human animal. It wasn't really all worth it. Not.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to me. It just boggles my mind that we live like this in today's society, and I just don't understand. One thing that I tell my community all the time, and a lot of stuff, thankfully, I've taken for you, and I think we need more people like you, more people like me to like start to shift society, and then they become leaders, and then they become leaders, and have this domino effect. But the one thing that I did that started getting me like out of that cell phone thing, and this was from you, when I woke up, immediately when I first had to start getting out of this, going straight to Instagram or TikTok or whatever, I would not touch my cell phone. I still don't do this now. I do not touch my cell phone till after I've gone to the gym, got home, had my first meal, if I had to send emails or whatever. And then, even then, sometimes, because I'm human, if I see or feel like oh, did my post get likes or did I get comments? I will go put my phone in the drawer on the desk or go put it in my room, and I just won't touch it. But why is that so hard?
Again, it goes to impulse control, right? And when people now, I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but Disney, Netflix, many different production companies now are making vertical based network shows that are going to be 30 to 59 seconds long to be shown on this device.
Just enough to get you.
Yet, because they realize people aren't watching long form movies anymore in television. They're always on their phone. So they go, how can we just show a 30-second episode at a time? A 30-second episode. They're teaching us, conditioning us from not us, you and me, not us. Because I'm not fucking being conditioned to be. Because if all you're doing is consuming content that's 15 to 30 to 59 seconds long, yeah, guess what? You're not going to have impulse control. They go, how do I fix my impulses? Well, actually start consuming longer content. Longer content. Sometimes I battle with myself because, obviously Ed here helps make our EK episode shows. Right. They're 20 to 30 minutes long. Some are maybe as long as 40 minutes. So I'm like, man, maybe I should just drop them on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes and don't make any shorts out of it, because I don't think I'm helping their little response and quick dopamine thing, right? The idea of those shorts are, the reels are, that they'll consume a tiny bit of content.
Yeah, well,
Want more. Exactly. Go find your wallet for it. But now stats are coming out that that's all they're really after is that. It's like, now am I gonna feed into that? I don't think so, man. Structuring how I do my content. If you're the type of dude who wants a full episode, come watch my shit. But if you're just looking for a little nugget of inspiration from me, so you can get a dopamine hit, and when you see me down the street, or it's like stretching and it's got, lacing up his shoes. He goes, Bedros, I follow your content. I was like, oh, cool. What platform? He goes, Instagram. I'm like, try YouTube or Spotify. He goes, okay. Because I realize, like, I don't want you to condition and rewire your brain to neuroplasticity to be consuming short form content only. I want you to enjoy long form content where your brain.
Yeah, and I've also, like, when I push my agenda or push my podcast, I always push the Apple iTunes or Spotify, because I'd rather them listen while they're in the car or working out, where, like you said, they can absorb that content. because we know, and I hear you all the time, you know, we don't have these people subscribing on YouTube because, like you said, they watch for 30 seconds and they're like, oh, this isn't entertaining enough, or this, you know, isn't shocking me enough. And they just bounce
Yeah.
and they're not learning anything. And it is kind of sad because, you know, I think the video is a very powerful thing, seeing emotion and reflection and stuff. But with all that going on here today, right now, if like you could only tell my community just one thing that you wanted to get across and get in their thick heads of this being, I guess, asleep in life, what would that be?
Well, it would be this. It would dovetail on what John Oden said in one of his books, which was that every man needs a battle to fight, an adventure to have, and a beauty to rescue. So let's go ahead and put away the beauty to rescue and the adventure to have. And I would just say, pick a battle to fight, a mission, because every man needs a mission, purpose, and team, right? And so I understand what my mission is. I'm very clear on my mission. I know what my life's purpose is, and I know who my team is that's going to help. And if every man could just take that one piece and figure out what their life's mission is, like commit to one mission. And by the way, it isn't right or wrong. If you're like, hey, my mission is to make $1 million and donate 90% of it to Shriners Children's Hospital, cool, man. Awesome. But every man needs to lock on to something, because if we don't, we become like my dog Cookie. You've probably heard me talk about my dog Cookie. She's part Mastiff, part German Shepherd, so she's motivated, but her lifespan is not going to be long. But when we rescued her, my family, we never had a big dog. And so we always had like tiny little dogs, like wiener dogs, chihuahuas and shit. And they were fine. They were fine dogs. But when we brought Cookie to her, it was 70 pounds. And like, holy crap, those dogs like pulling the kids across the pool deck and pulling the wife across the pool deck. And I'm like, we got to get a dog trainer. So we got a dog trainer, and this dog trainer, she works with Cookie for about 3 or 4 weeks. And Cookie begins to really fetch and do all the things that a smart big dog could do and should do. And then she comes to me, she goes, hey, sir, can I talk to you? This is my last day working with Cookie. It was like week 3 or week 4. She goes, I need to tell you something. We've got a big, beautiful property here in Chino, and that we live in. She goes, you see that big, beautiful lawn that you have back there? I go, yeah. She goes, you see the rose garden way in the back corner? I go, yep. She goes, this dog will ruin that rose garden if you don't play fetch with her 10, 12. Dog needs a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, mission. In the absence of a sense of meaning and purpose, she's going to give herself a mission. And the mission is probably going to be to dig holes in your backyard, or even worse, in your beautiful rose garden. I go, wow. She goes, otherwise she'll get depressed. And I realized, as men, we are no different than a German Shepherd dog. If we don't have a mission to sink our teeth into and to work towards every single day with purpose and relentless focus, we will begin to get depressed and start digging holes in our life. And the holes in our life look like this: alcohol, drugs, vape. What do they call it? Brain rot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They created a subject called brain. Like, how
Right.
crazy is that?
Right? Right. Fuck, man. You and I growing up, did I know that term?
Exactly.
Tomatoes would get rotten and brains were brains, and they would think and they would operate. But that's what happens, man. Just like a dog, if you don't have a mission, you will end up digging holes in the backyard, and those holes look like just ruining your entire life. And so the one thing I would tell these men is figure out what your life's mission is. And it doesn't have to be right or wrong. You don't have to spend the next decade, because I know what these motherfuckers are thinking right now. I'm going to spend the next 5 to 10 years figuring out my mission. No, you're not. No, you're not. Find a cause, just something. And if later you find a better cause, just switch. Just switch. It's okay. It's okay to do. Before the pandemic, I thought it was just to raise Andrew and Chloe, 2 beautiful humans. And this was going to be our gift. My gift to humanity is 2 beautiful humans that were far smarter and more capable than I ever was, because I was raised like a human animal. And so then when the pandemic happened and I saw what was happening with the erosion of men, I was like, I'm going to also make that mission. I'm going to serve men and help them rise to their highest level. And you may not like the way I speak to you when I say you're a fat gelatinous fuck and you're living like a peasant and you are dependent and your wife doesn't treat you like a husband. She treats you like a boy because you treat her like mommy. You ask her for permission because you don't take initiative. She wants you to lead and you don't. And because of all these things, so that might hurt, but I'd rather be the one to hurt you And then when you're ready to actually listen up after you're done saying all these bad, nasty things about me, I'll also be the one to serve you and give you the plan to get there, which is to find some mission and attack it every day so that your life depends on it, because it does.
And guys, like I truly hope you run this back and rewind what Bedros just said and listen to it day after day. A man without a purpose is a very, very dangerous thing. And, you know, we're in this society where they don't want us to have purpose because guess what? Strong men can change the future. Strong men can change the course of reality. And with that being said, so I know for me that leading with purpose and passion and the things that I do as a man and having strength, not toxic masculinity, is what makes my marriage a very beautiful, wonderful thing. What's your top 3 things that keeps your marriage in a great place?
Well, but here's what I would say. I'm going to start by telling you the type of women that I was after before. I was the proverbial Captain Sabo. The more broken it down were, the more
The
more I wanted, right? And I realized I was a byproduct of who I was. I did not feel worthy, speaking of that conversation, worthy. I did not feel worthy of a healthy relationship. I did not feel worthy that someone who was beautiful and intelligent and emotionally stable would want someone like me, right? And so I don't know top 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 10, but I can tell you this, that if you want a healthy relationship, start by working on you. If you want a healthy relationship with your spouse, start by working on you. So first thing I'm going to tell you is heal your shit. If you suffered through any kind of trauma, whether it's PTSD, whether it's sexual abuse, like I was. When I was a kid, I was sexually abused by 2 older boys over and over again in Armenia. And I carried the weight of that for 30 some odd years until I had a massive panic attack and it dropped me to my knees. I thought I was having a heart attack, bro.
Yep.
And, you know, I spent the next 15 months after that working with a therapist, not because I was like, oh, I'm smart enough to go to a therapist, because I feel like this thing that I've been hiding and suppressing finally came out. It's because the doctors were like, dude, we gave you Xanax, we gave you Prozac, we gave you all these fucking things to numb you, and nothing's working for you. And my doctor finally recommended, he goes, you might want to consider working with a therapist. They might be able to give you tools to work with this anxiety that you're having. And I remember telling my doctor, why do I need a therapist? That's what broken me. And I was about as broken as they came, right? And so when you get into a marriage like I did, and you were broken, you have trauma that is unhealed, you are constantly feeling like you're walking on eggshells, and you feel unworthy of love no matter how much love you're given, you end up sabotaging an otherwise great relationship. So if you start healing yourself, if you start healing your inner child, and I'm not the most woo-woo, let me go hug a tree, do sound bowls, and meditate over incense. That's not me. So when I say healing your inner child, I mean, I'm talking from personal experience, right? You do that and you realize that, hey, I'm not just someone who is broken and damaged and unworthy of love. What happened to me as a young boy was not my fault. Those older boys took advantage of a very sacred thing, a rite of passage for young boys looking up to older. And said, I've learned to heal from what happened to me. And as I became better, the marriage improved. Beyond that, it's probably a second piece of advice I can tell you. I can tell you that God takes 2 pieces of rocks, you and your spouse. And as soon as you guys say, I do, you're dropped into this burlap sack. Can you picture that?
Yeah.
And these rocks are both jagged and have sharp edges to them, right? And that is just a human experience. You know, everything your family did to you and everything her family did to her, whether they meant to or not. Like I've got, you know, wife and I, we've got 2 amazing kids. I have no doubt. I always tell them, Andrew, Chloe, I think we raised you guys well. I have no doubt you guys are going to need therapy. And there's obviously a lot of shit that we did that's going to dance you. And you should heal from it as soon as you can. And come tell me what it is that we fucked up on. I'll be the first to say I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Because you were my first rounded children. Like, they can come with the owner's manual. I wish you did, you know? And so the things that I was aware enough, I apologize to my kids for as they got older, right? I remember smashing Andrew's iPad when he was 13 years old because he created an Instagram account and his profile picture was the middle finger. But you live in Chino Hill. Pro athletes and you know, CEOs are innate.
You ain't gangster.
You're not gangster, son, right? And mom had told you not to create an IG account, and here I come from a trip, a business trip, And we find this, and I lost my shit. Like that, there was no reason for that.
Right.
There was no reason for me to lose my shit. And so when, a couple years later, it dawned on me, I apologized. But so going back to these two jagged, sharp-edged pieces of rocks that go into a burlap sack, the moment you say I do. And then God cinches up that sack and starts shaking it up, shaking it up. Now, remember, you never knew her. She never knew you. You guys somehow met, found each other. You're like, you know what? I like you and you like her, and off you go in the bag. That is life. Now you create a house, you create children, you have work, virtual trips, etc. And soon you guys start rubbing each other the wrong way. And every now and again, the creator, God, opens up that burlap bag and says, yo, how you guys doing in there? That's code for you guys give up. We're now part of the 54% of Earth. If you choose to stay in, they go, hey, cinch it up, big guy, keep shaking it. Soon, over enough time of healing and work and communication, choosing which hill to die on in an argument, there's certain hills that I choose not to die on. There are certain hills that I will die on in this marriage, right? But when you try and die on every hill, what ends up happening? I'm going to take my fucking toothbrush and my toiletry kit and I'm going to go stay at the Hampton Inn.
Yeah.
Only to then cool down and realize I kind of like my wife's warm body next to me, And plenty of men have done that. So I shared this with you because over time that bag will open up for the most part, and you'll see two beautiful, smooth, well-rounded pieces of rocks that fit in perfectly. That is the work, spouse, over time to connect. Now, she of course has a responsibility too.
Right.
I told you that we ran the project, 5 years, 20 classes. It was a personal development experience for a man. And the running joke after class 6 or 7 was you either produce project babies or project divorces. Because these men who level up in life go home and they're like, hey, woman, here is how I'm going to show up as a man. I'm going to be a gentleman. That I'm going to make sure that I do my part in this relationship, that I don't treat you like a mom, that I expect you to respect me and love me in that order. And oh, by the way, I will plan date nights and I will do all these things as a man is supposed to. And these are the expectations that I have of you. Can we sit down and talk about them? Those who came together and were on the same page ended up having the most awesome relationship. And soon they would announce to the Project Brotherhood group that we have on Facebook, it's a private page, hey, we're having a baby, right? Project Babies. Those who would go home and their women were like, no, I think I'm just going to stay here now. It's like men could choose. Like when a woman decides to do the personal development work and the healing work and her man does it, guess what? She's going to fucking bounce.
Yep.
And so that's how we created Project Divorces and Project Babies. And so both of you have to stay on that rock, equally do the work, stop blaming each other. There's plenty of great books out there to read. We can start with the 4 agreements, start there, work your way through other books. And when you do, there's somewhere between, I think you're saying there's a communication gap. And
anger issues, the mental health bullshit, pulling, screaming. Just like you, I've apologized to my kids a million times over for that same thing. My daughter's 26. She's in therapy right now.
Yep.
And anytime she needs something, she calls me and she'll be like, Dad, I'm sorry to bother. I'm like, look, I'm your father. It's not a father. I'm here for you. But when I got married to my current wife, and we've been together 8 years now, it always pissed me off. She say, I love you, but I love myself more. And I would get mad, right? That ego, like, what do you mean you love yourself more? I'm your husband. But it wasn't until I started thinking about that and realized that if I love myself first, I can be a better father. I can be a better husband. I can be a better servant. I can share my love with more people. And the funniest thing, because this happened today, talking about dying on that hill, my wife is texting me. She's a teacher. And so she's texting me and she's like, we're going to Disney. We're big Disney adults. We're going to Disney World in a couple of weeks again. And she's like, oh, just so you know, we can stay the extra day, but I have to go dog sit. And me being busy, I'm like, you never told me that. And then you say stuff like that. What happens? What do you mean? I never told you. It started like getting into an argument. I was like, look, today's very important to me. I love you. It doesn't matter who's wrong. From now on, I'm going to put anything you tell me appointment-wise in my calendar. And guess what? There will be no more argument. And I think it caught her off guard because there was no comeback. She couldn't say anything. Like I had to diffuse that situation because I'm not going to die on the hill over my wife and miscommunication versus because I was that guy. what do you mean you didn't tell me this? And then I told you this, and that's F you, and that's F you. And then, like you said, next thing you know,
It's very quickly. That's
yeah,
yeah.
especially when there's no inflection in text messages. So, guys, I've probably said every podcast about the love yourself first and communication. Like, if it is so funny to me that if you don't understand something, how hard is it to just say, I don't understand. Can you explain that to me? Why do we let that ego come into play where we think we have to know it all and we have to understand everything? But with that being said, and like getting close to try and start winding things down and stuff, with everything you've built, like what's next? What other things do you have that's going on? Are you I know you're a man that's not content, like you're always trying to evolve, always trying to move. Is there bigger, better things in the work, or are you just gonna grow what you already have?
No, continue to grow what I have. And in terms of my companies, again, people like, I don't for once think that my companies are my identity. I've been very blessed to have big companies and to have equity in other companies that I'm helping scale and sell. Every single one of my companies, I'm going to scale and sell. And I've done that with three. I've had three exits now, or about to have our fourth exit soon later this year. And I'm very blessed for that. Like freedom, for impact, for change, for experiences, to set my kids up for life, etc. That said, am I going to create more businesses? Probably not. I'm 51, no more new businesses. Will I take equity in new businesses? Scale. And of course, two. What else? Yeah, my son, Andrew, being college, and all this money that I was blessed with that allows me to buy back my time and be able to win my health. I'm 51 and in fucking awesome shape. And I feel I have great health and I do well in life in terms of my functional cognitive functions. Even when I'm fasting like this, I want to be there at every single one of their concerts or as Chloe goes and get listens in space. Like I told Andrew, man, I don't care if you want me to guide, I like fucking carry the speakers off the bus when you're doing that global tour. Or Chloe, if you're going to be on a set filming a movie, like I'm going to be the guy to be right next to the director, like that's my fucking daughter. He's going to shut the fuck up. No, you shut the fuck up. Yeah, not until they kick me off the set. But I'm going to be that guy. Now, I still have two more books in the works right now. One will launch later in 2026. One will launch in 2027. Can't talk much about those right now. But that's the extent of it is I want to be able to serve my kids. I knew that if I could set myself up for when my kids launch in life, I would be there every step of the way with them. And that's the freedom that I want to create for myself. My dad didn't do that for me. My dad brought us from a communist country. He risked his life to bring us to the United
Right.
States. Beyond that, he was too busy working at his tailor shop. I was never putting into athletics. When I wanted to go into athletics, it was too expensive. Paid for my way to get into something. Hey, mom, dad, I'm gonna be doing this event. Bro, I ran an event in Costa Mesa, being from around here. You know how far Costa Mesa? Costa Mesa, 15 minutes, right? I ran an event, that 1,500 person event, 3-day event, and I was giving away a Land Rover. So it's like, guys, I'll have my chauffeur, Hugo, come and pick you guys up and bring you to the event, take you back. Like, oh, no, that's okay. And so I was like, I'm never going to be that. My kids don't even have to ask. So you tell me where your concert is, son, or daughter, you tell me where the red carpet is, and I'm fucking there. And that's how it's going to be. So that's the next phase of my life. It's not necessarily growing companies.
Well, I'd like to say you have a lot more than just a little wisdom. You know, I honestly believe that if it wasn't for me consuming some of your content around the 2017 timeframe, I wouldn't be doing this right now. You know, keep doing the work that you're doing. I'm gonna keep doing the work that I'm doing. And guys, my final thoughts is this: your parents or however you were brought up, that doesn't define who you are and who you want to become. Everything that you want to do, want to be, want to become, it is inside you. You have the power to do it. And you're going to say, I'm hokey and I'm crazy, but you truly, truly achieve what you believe in. And if I didn't have the mindset to constantly comment on Bedros' posts and message him and ask to speak at speaking gigs when he doesn't even know who the heck I was, I wouldn't be here today. So that's social proof that anybody that wants to do good, have a service mindset, and live a purposeful life and help people grow, you can do that. And you can become a very valuable asset, not only for yourself, but for your family and for your kids. And at the end of the day, when we leave this earth, because it's coming, you can't stop death. Do you really want to be the man that said, I didn't do everything that I thought I did? Or you want to be the man or woman that said, I gave it all. I did my best, and I left this world in a better place. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Battle Harder podcast. Remember, as I always like to say, always be fit for battle.
That's it for today's episode. If something in this conversation stuck with you, that's where the real change starts. Outside of this podcast, my work is centered on structured training, accountability, and helping people rebuild strength, discipline, and consistency when their life gets off track. If these conversations are useful to you, subscribing helps make sure you don't miss the ones you didn't know you needed yet. You can find more at battleharder.com or follow along on socials. Thanks for listening, and always be fit for battle.